How do you find the will to fight back against a world that wants to keep you sedated, average, and stuck in place? Join us for the tools and strategies you need to create a life of abundance, discipline, and high achievement. This is the Tactical Empire with Jeff Smith.
Welcome to another episode of the Tactical Empire. I'm joined by Shawn Rider. How are you today, friend?
I am great. Making it through the week. You know how it is. I like my consistency. We got sports shit getting canceled all the time. We got a lot of rain up here in Virginia recently, but you're making your way through the Commonwealth. How has your experience been?
Oh, good, man. Good. I'm ready to move on to the next park. We're doing Colonial Williamsburg and the history of the United States, starting at 1700 or something, and working our way up through the history. Um, I don't know. Battle of Yorktown is next on the agenda, and we will be doing that this week, and then it's off to DC next week. And then from DC, we're going to Gettysburg to wrap it up with the Civil War. And so, yeah, it's been a good little history lesson for the kids. Hands-on history.
Hands on. I saw the video of the muskets on the wall. I guess I don't know where that was. Where were you yesterday?
That was the governor's mansion in Colonial Williamsburg.
Colonial Williamsburg. I want to see Jeff in some colonial tights.
I had a video with armor on. Gunner and I put the armor on, so I don't know where that was at, but we'll get you some videos.
I missed that one. Now we're not taking a time machine back to colonial times, but we are going back in time today, Jeff. I want us to do a thought exercise. Regardless if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s, hopefully this episode will have some valuable nuggets in it. But we do, everyone asks, what's the youngest person in your group? And we've had like a 21, 22-year-old at one point. He's been in the group for a few years, so he's no longer 21, 22. We do have a few 20-year-olds in the inner circle. Most of the guys are in their 30s, 40s, or 50s, but we do have some 20-year-olds. So if you could rewind time and go back to your early to mid-20s, if you had the forethought and wherewithal that some of these other guys do in our group on building wealth or building the life that you think you desire, what are some things that you would have done differently or implemented sooner? What would be like your top 3 things that would have moved the needle bigger, faster for you?
Jeez, are we talking about money or like not chasing women, spending less money at the bars, like all that? Like
they all play into it. So yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ, where to start? If
Yeah.
I definitely would have plowed more money into different things. But like I said, I mean, I didn't know about high early cash value life insurance at that point in time. I mean, I would say that, like, if I had a time machine, I would definitely go back and get some education about those and start investing in them sooner than later. Because if I had a bigger bank, we would be that much further down the road at this point, right? And so that, and I probably would have not worked for someone else for as long as I did. My situation was a little different in that I was working at a Fortune 50 company. And while most people would say that that's golden handcuffs, and it did turn out to be that after a period of time, but like I really was a savvy individual with regards to it because we had a huge continuing education opportunity. And there was a lot of like on the job curriculum that I could do, courses I could take. And I did. And I mean, I really broadened my financial exposure. I really dug in and took a lot of courses, a lot of certifications. I did the Series 6 certification courses, and I never sat for the tests for Series 6 and Series 7, but I did a lot of those courses. And so I utilized that time to educate myself. I partied too much, 100%, and spent a lot of time distracted because work was so easy. Um, but I made good enough money that I could have done some serious damage then. If I would have been more focused and I had better guidance and mentors. I didn't have any mentors at that point in time either, which I think was a big downfall to, not downfall. I mean, I've turned out whatever, fine. But I could have accelerated things like tremendously quicker had I known someone like myself when I was 20 years old, and been like, hey, like, you should do these things at this age, and like, you're going to start seeing the returns on things. I mean, I bought an apartment complex when I was 26 years old, so I didn't get too far down the road before I was doing like some things and learning, but I was learning those lessons like the hard way. Cause like that's how my family is. Like that's how I grew up. Like I've got to do it. I've got to burn myself on the stove myself. I can't believe you about it. And so, and usually I have to burn myself on the stove twice because like, that's just how dumb and hard headed I am. And, so I didn't know anything about scale. I didn't know anything about leverage. I didn't know anything about using other people, how not using them, but leveraging other people to get things done at that point in time. And I would have loved to have somebody to teach me that stuff. I didn't grow up in the business world. I was wired to be unmanageable. And that's what kind of led me to the path that I'm on at this
Mhm.
point.
Super interesting. I mean, I think some of my things, the top three, are the same, but my experience is different because I've always been a saver. So like my mistake wasn't that I partied too much, or invested in the wrong thing. My thing was I got into a low paying career as a teacher, but it was like something that I enjoyed because it would allow me to coach football. And anyone that's been a high school football coach knows that you're getting paid like 2 cents an hour when it comes down to what you're. So like I was just like living my passion, right? But the passion came with absolutely zero financial upside. I did end up starting a business with a business partner, my first gym, when I was 22, 23. But I don't think I truly grasped like how big that business could be and how it could financially benefit me. It ended up getting to that point, but I think I probably started off way too slow with the expectations on how to grow that. So my mistakes are that like I was a saver and I only saved in the bank. So obviously, if I had learned about IBC and life insurance and it connected with me at that time, I would go back in time and start doing that sooner. But even if I had just taken the money that was in the bank and invested it in the stock market in the early mid 2000s, 2000 and teens, that money would have at least rode the greatest bull market. So eventually I probably would have came to my senses and been able to pull that money, and it would have grown better than what it had grown just sitting in the bank. But I was one of those people who never had money growing up. So seeing my bank account go up every month because I was a saver and not a spender, to me, that was a return on my money. It's like, oh, you're not spending, so your return is getting a bigger bank account. So that's number one. Is I was a saver, but I wasn't savvy with growing that money. Two, I was too slow in the first 3 or 4 years of building my first business. I could have pushed. I worked a lot, but I could have pushed the growth a little bit more efficiently. And I think that ties back to one thing you said, which was not having a mentor. I was hard headed in my early to mid 20s, and I viewed mentorship as an expense, not an investment. So that definitely was a bit delayed on my end. And now, mentorship and education is still way more important now than before. Um, so those would be the two main things. I think at the end of the day, I also, as someone building a business, I didn't invest enough in my leadership skills in regards to being able to communicate effectively.
Mm.
I don't believe in completely changing who I am, but it took me a while to realize that people want led differently, and you need to talk differently to different people. Still not certainly an expert in that field, and probably shy away from that more than I should, but I also have learned that I don't want to build a business with 50 employees. I'd rather build a small business with less than 6 people and then outsource the rest to professionals. And so for me, I understand that it's a lot easier to fire a professional company than fire an employee. So those are things that I would probably go back in time with and just put my money to work sooner. Maybe not, I wouldn't say work harder because I was a hard worker, but work more efficiently and press on the right levers to grow the business. I was a believer back then of the old classic build it and they will come. And so it was like, oh, I have a business, so it will do well eventually. And so I was a very passive business owner in terms of being a business builder. So maybe there's some parts of that story that relate to a lot of people. We come across a lot of guys that are savers and stewards of money, and they've invested. They're just not investing in things that benefit them. So those are probably some of the mistakes. On the last episode, we talked about making mistakes. You and I both have lost money, but that is the cost of real life tuition, so to speak. Is in real life, you're not paying tuition like a college tuition. You're paying to make mistakes, and those are the greatest lessons. Is when you actually lose real money. That's ultimately not the goal, is to lose money. But every time I have made a mistake and it costs me money, it definitely has more impact on me than just reading a case study in a textbook or a course that I was taking. So those are definitely, is there anything else that popped into mind as I was going through some of mine that were related to yours?
Yeah, I mean, I think that from a business perspective, I definitely talking about changing your mindset from like hiring a coach or a mentor, like for speed and for like to limit your errors is in framing that as an investment instead of an expense is super important. The other thing I like, most people start businesses to replace their job because they hate their boss or they hate their situation and they want to make enough money to compensate them for what they're doing, right? So if they make 5 grand at their job, their goal or their target is to go out and build this business to pay them $5,000. And I think young people, at least I went through this where I was like, I didn't understand that side of things. You've got to be more driven to build an actual business that can pay you that without your involvement than just go. Otherwise you're building yourself a job. And from a business perspective, like I think that lesson is super important to understand because if you peel off all of your profits and take them as compensation for yourself, you're not building really anything. So like you need to understand where you're reinvesting. And we have this conversation all the time within the group. Like you need to either be reinvesting in your primary business, like gangbusters, until you have completely maxed it out, because usually that's your highest ROI. And then once that is kind of tapped out or you've bled it dry, not bled it dry, that's the wrong term, but like taking it to the max of where it can get from a profitability standpoint, then you've got to go ahead and invest into other assets that can. And then your goal should be, can you meet and exceed what you're bringing home from that company with the profits that you're taking out of that company? So you make 20K at the business. Can you make 20K with the assets you're buying from the business? Because then you're in a great position because you've built this business that's an asset itself, and you've got assets paying you the same amount of money. Ultimately, that's where you want to get to. When I was 20, I didn't understand any of that shit. I was trying to like, okay, we're profitable by this much. I should go teach a class. I should go like take as much. I should go make this repair on a real estate myself because I can go ahead and then take home 75 more dollars at the end of the day. And if you don't have like a long term understanding of what you're trying to do, you miss that all the time, and you step over dollars picking up nickels, or whatever the saying is, right? And
Mhm.
so, like, I think the younger people need to do a bigger time horizon understanding of that stuff. And I mean, we've got one guy in the group that was, I think he's in his mid to late 20s at this point, but he's been the best example I've ever seen of that. I've known him for probably 4 years now, but he has plowed all of his money back into assets, and he's got nearly $750,000 invested, and he's not even 27 yet. And so he'll have $1 million of investment money invested in cash flowing assets by the time he's 30, which is just tremendous, because that will 10x and then 20x in his it once you allow time to catch up with what he's doing.
Yeah.
And so he's going to be able to do whatever he wants, which is cool to see. So it's rare that you find somebody with that level of maturity and that level of willingness to delay gratification.
Well, you just took the words right out of my mouth. I was like, that sounds like delayed gratification in my mind, and I thought I was delaying gratification when I was being a really good saver, but the opportunity cost on putting that money to work, either in getting the proper real life education through mentorship, or actually starting to invest. I knew nothing about cash flow assets, right? Like my grandpa owned a business, and my grandma on the other side owned a business. But we didn't talk about money growing up. I mean, my parents went to work 40 to 60 hours a week, got paid hourly. So when I got into my teaching job and was like, oh yeah, I'll be making $40,000 a year working half the year. That's awesome. I'm gonna have so much time to coach football and work out. And eventually I had started a business, so I built the business. But like again, I was way too passive about it. I didn't think big enough. I probably invested a lot too much in my fitness. I'm glad that I was into fitness, but I probably worked out way more than I should have at that time. I could have spent better time surrounding. But again, you can only go far as to who's around you, and the people around me weren't. They were other teachers, right? They were making 40, 50, 60 grand. And I remember I was a finance and economics teacher at a high school. And one project, I had the students go and interview other teachers and like ask. It was like a questionnaire, and one of the questions was like how much their family income was. And I'm surprised that most of the teachers answered this, but I remember one teacher didn't. Now I know why they didn't, because it's kind of it's not kosher to share your annual income with a teenager that is in the school system that you teach in. But I do remember one of the students came back, brought the questionnaire, and both of the husband and wife, the teacher that he interviewed is a husband and wife couple that worked in that school system. And I remember they check marked. The highest option was 100,000 plus, and that was the highest option because that's as big as I could think, right? And they had checked mark 100,000 plus, and like that blew my fucking mind as like a 24-year-old high school teacher. I was like, holy shit, Mr. Smith and Mrs. Smith are making over $100,000 a year. That's fucking crazy. But now in like the back end, I'm like, I saw how much they worked. They had a child, and after that's W-2 income, so after taxes, they were probably taking home like 70 grand a year. And I'm like, wow, that's really not that much for someone that has a house and a mortgage and two cars and a child. So, damn, I really, my mind has grown a lot since the 24-year-old teaching. But yeah, if we could go back, maybe we'll be moving a lot farther, a lot faster, but better now than never, better a few years ago than never figuring it out. So anything else you want to add for the people, Jeff? If not, we can send them out.
Well, I think this episode applies to like your mindset more than actually your true physical age, I think. And it's your financial mindset on like when you shift into that growth mindedness and like what you want to be doing. Because now I've been doing this for whatever 25 years of growth, right? And so like but we were talking in the last episode about a guy who is my age who's just getting into it, right? And so like it it doesn't matter necessarily the age that you're starting at. It's really where you're at with your mindset. Like you said, you were a good saver, but like how quickly, at what age did you flip the switch to start saying, you know what? I think I might do something different than my parents did, or I might take a different path because like there's other people out there doing these things that their life looks interesting, or they look like they have more free time than I do. And so like what are they doing differently? Curiosity is what is a huge thing about this. It doesn't matter necessarily how you spent your 20s. Like I said, we can fix all this. If you're a great saver and you're not 24-year-old Shawn, but you're 44-year-old Shawn, you're probably going to have a shitload of money because you've been a great saver for 20 additional years of being a great saver. So how fast with that mindset shift can we do like a serious 180 with their lifestyle, because now they've got some capital available, and we can take this and we say, hey, this is going to feel a little tense for a minute because it's not what you're used to doing, but we can turn this around to where it's paying you quickly. And so, I mean, I just want to make sure that like people don't get lost in the weeds that we're talking about 20-year-olds. And like the reality of it is like anytime you're ready to make this like mental shift, it doesn't matter when you start. It's just a matter of like how quickly you can change things for yourself, and the better financial position you put yourself in. um, that's where like it's kind of a gap in the gain type thing. Like you're looking for the positives out of it. Oh, I'm 45 years old. I should have done this 20 years ago. Well, the fact is, you've got some shit. You've got a house. You've got some cars. You've got a job that pays you. Like you've done well with regards to what you knew and the knowledge that you were equipped with at that point in time. And now you're going out and trying to do something different. And like those guys, as long as they're not buried in bad debt, usually can change their entire life by 50, and then they're off to the races for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, depending on how well they're taking care of themselves. And like, I think I would just rather know and open my eyes and become enlightened at some point in time that there's a different way than ride it all the way to 70.
Mm.
And so it's not necessarily an episode about 20-year-olds. Just
Yeah,
understand that.
great clarification. That's a great clarification. I probably couldn't say it any better. So if you're ready to flip the switch, that's all it takes. Easier said than done. But if you're feeling a pain point with what you've been working on and the financial benefit of that, or you see this money in the bank and you're scared to lose it, you're scared to deploy it, like that's your body and mind telling you that there's something better out there that you can be doing. And that's why you're listening to this podcast. That's why you landed on that, us on YouTube or wherever you found us, Instagram. You've been thinking these things, you've been searching these things. That's why you've come across our content. This is what we work on with people. If you want to work with us, follow us on all socials, get on our website, reach out, DM us. Jeff, send the people out.
Guys, we're Tactical Empire on all social platforms. We have a Tactical Empire community that's free on Facebook. If you have any questions, go in there, post some questions. We'll answer them directly. You can DM Shawn and I if you have any questions about any of this stuff. We've got a variety of free education that you guys can hit us up for. We're happy to help. We just want you to level up your life and continue to push your boundaries. So have a great week. We'll talk to you. Thanks for listening. Go like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a shout. We'd love to talk to you.